How can you defend somebody who you know is guilty? That was probably the most popular question I got way back when I was a public defender and I was doing a lot of criminal defense work. And that was the number one question I got at cocktail parties and things like that. And so I want to kind of answer that question today, and maybe you've heard it from other defense lawyers. The way we defend people who we know are guilty is that we want to make sure that the system is fair, and we want to make sure that the process is fair. Everybody in America under the Constitution is presumed innocent until proven guilty. You have a right to a jury trial. And so that's the constitutional rights that everybody has. Defense lawyers, our job is to make sure that those constitutional rights are upheld. The system works when there's an adversarial process, and that's how we find the truth. In court, we have cross-examination. And again, unless there's defense lawyers, the whole system will break down. But I think also more on a practical level, 95% of the cases end up in a guilty plea in the criminal justice system. That means 95% of the people are not going to trial and getting a verdict. And so because there's 95% who are pleading guilty to something, that means that 95% of the people are factually guilty of what they did. And so our job as their lawyer is basically to make sure that the system is fair. And I might have talked about that once before on this channel, where I said that when I was a public defender, and I remember going into court, 1 week seeing a kid who shot somebody and he got 6 years in prison. And then the next week, I have a client who stole the car and their prosecutor's trying to give him 8 years. And so I want to say, and so I was kind of like, in my mind anyway, it was always like, well, the guy stole the car and he's going to get more than the guy who shot somebody. That's not fair. And so what I would do is I would go into court and I would always fight for that fairness, because I knew what was fair, what wasn't fair. Incidentally, when I was in law school, I was in law school in Los Angeles, and my internship was at the prosecutor's office, the DA's office in Los Angeles. And I remember working in that building, and I remember talking to all the prosecutors in there, and what they liked about their job was that they could kind of be fair to the people who they were prosecuting. That was their opinion anyway. I think in practice, as I got older and as I practiced more, I don't think it was as innocuous as that. But they would say that, they would look at a case and see the gang guy or whatever who they wanted to put in jail for 20 years versus a guy who was smoking dope or smoking marijuana or whatever, go lighter on them. So they thought that they could divvy out the fairness in that office. Well, I kind of remember that when I started practicing law here, doing defense work, in the sense that I made sure that when I was in court fighting for my clients who I knew were guilty, I wanted to make sure the system was fair, and I want to make sure they got a fair sentence in relationship to all the other cases that I handled. So anyway, so that's kind of my explanation of how you defend people you know are guilty. Again, if other attorneys might disagree with me, they might just say, look, it doesn't matter what I think. Everybody has a right to a vigorous defense, and nothing else matters besides that, and everybody's innocent in their eyes, and that's that. I totally get that. But again, that's my assessment of the dealing with criminal defense work in the real world. That's kind of what I used to say. But anyway, so I hope that was interesting anyway. If you liked the video, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thanks.